Hello friends, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is my mystical Christmas tree. And today I have another Christmas book, Christmas Advent book, and it is One Foggy Christmas by Courtney Keisel. And I'm going to start by saying that it was not my favorite Christmas book that I have read. I actually really didn't like it that much. I gave it 2.5 stars, and let's talk about why I did that and why it really shouldn't be considered a Christmas book now that I'm thinking about it really hard and long. Yeah, it definitely shouldn't be a Christmas book, and I'm kind of upset that I listened to it and that I used a credit on it on Audible. Going to try and get my credit back because it just wasn't very good, and I'm going to go into reasons why. So the story, it sounds really great. It starts off, the premise is that Sadie and Nash are a happily married couple. They've been married for 3 years, and they go on a skiing trip, and the skiing trip goes horribly wrong, and Sadie loses her memory. And she can't remember that she's married to Nash. She seems to think she's in love with her ex-boyfriend still from 3 years ago. And it's really, the theme was winning your spouse back. And I thought that sounded interesting because they're married, but she doesn't remember, but they're married. And I thought it would be interesting to see how Nash would go about re-dating Sadie. That's pretty much what the story is about. And what's also confusing and what I didn't particularly love is that it's told in 3 different parts. There's part 1, which is kind of like a prequel, and it showcases Sadie and Nash's romance, and it tells you, the reader, how they got together, how their whirlwind romance ended in marriage, and how everything was so happy. And then part 2 kind of just comes in and like sucker punches you in the gut and is like, oh, you thought everything was so happy? You thought wrong. You thought way wrong. Yeah, part 2 pretty much sucks, and Sadie sucks in part 2. I think Sadie kind of sucks throughout the whole book. But that is not like a discussion that I'm willing to make a whole video about, because she really does. She's not a great spouse. I'm going to say that. Like, she is, I don't know. She's kind of selfish in a way. And she just isn't, I just don't think she's someone who should be with Nash. Because Nash is like this really sweet guy. He's amazing. He's so kind and caring, and he loves Sadie unconditionally, and he really throws himself out there literally all the time. And he's very sacrificial in his love for Sadie, which is what marriage is supposed to be about. But it's kind of one-sided because Sadie doesn't really sacrifice back, which is what you should do in a marriage. It's all about give and take, unconditional love for one another. I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way how this author went about it, and I'm kind of disappointed in it because it just doesn't really feel like a Christmas book. And I don't know, when I was listening to it, I thought part 1 was amazing. Part 1 was my favorite. It just shows how beautiful Sadie and Nash's romance was before the accident. And then the author kind of dismantles everything in part 2 and in part 3. And I'm like, why was there all of this character development in part 1 if it's only going to be dismantled from the rest of the book. Because I feel like part 1 could have been like a novella, I guess, because part 1 felt long. It was like maybe 3 hours long. That could have been a novella. It could have been like, don't even bring in the accident. It could have been just Sadie and Nash. They met at a ball game. They ended up dating, and like they ended up getting together, and it could have been a whole thing. But no, it just had to be this whole long ordeal, and it just wasn't very good. And the ex-boyfriend thing is what really gets me in this book, because I feel like Sadie is obsessed with her ex-boyfriend, whose name is Stenson, and that's like the stupidest name I've ever heard in my life. And I don't like Stenson. He's like the bare minimum of what should be expected of a partner, and it's like, what are you doing, Sadie? Why do you even like this guy? He doesn't even act like he likes you half the time. And she says it's so comfortable and whatnot. It doesn't feel comfortable, like, as a reader looking into it from the outside perspective. It seems like someone who's just doing the bare minimum, and he's this kind of guy who just expects everything from Sadie and doesn't really give her anything back. And I made some notes about it. And one thing I noticed was that the Sadie Nash Stenson triangle thing that happened in the beginning, it sort of feels like Jim and Pam and Roy. I don't know if that's gonna make anyone make sense to anyone, but that's kind of just that's the conclusion I came to in my mind. It was like Pam and Roy and like Jim coming in and showing Pam that there's more to life than just someone giving you the bare minimum. That's kind of what it felt like to me. And then it would have been like if Pam like never wanted to give it a chance, or if Pam was in this same scenario and lost her memory too. That's just kind of what it felt like. It felt like Nash is better than Jim, first of all. I'm going to say that. But Sadie is kind of on par with Pam. Like, I like Pam as a character in The Office, but I like her more than Sadie. I don't think Sadie's very redeemable in her qualities as a wife, and it's just really interesting because in part 2, after the accident happens, it just feels like she's disgusted by Nash, which I think is so weird and cruel. And like, where does it even come from? Like, he's your husband, and Sadie acts like she doesn't believe him. She's like, what do you mean? You can't possibly be my husband. I'm in love with Stenson. And I swear, if I heard one more thing about Stenson, I was gonna throw up. It was really horrible. And the kicker in all of this is that this is a huge spoiler for the book, but I think people need to know about it. And you need to know about it right away if you want to read this or not. It's that Courtney Keisel really wrote in her book, Nash and Sadie, because Sadie was so uncomfortable and didn't even want to give anything a chance, didn't want to remember anything, didn't want to really get to know Nash again. She made them get divorced in this book. And that's where I draw the line. That's where I drew the line and was like, okay, no, this isn't a Christmas book, apparently. This is like the opposite of a Christmas book. I don't even know why it's called One Foggy Christmas, because there's so little about Christmas in it. And it's just like, it takes that question of, or that statement, God's plan for you versus what you want for yourself. And it kind of just flips it. It's like abolishing God's plan for you and being like, no, I know what's best for me. That's basically what Sadie feels like. It feels like she's completely abolishing God's plan and is like, no, I don't think I'm supposed to be married to you, actually. I'm gonna divorce you because it's too hard, and I don't remember you, and I don't want to remember you, and I want to go back to Stenson. And it just is like, what are you doing? Like, literally, what are you doing? I was questioning why I was still listening to this book, like halfway through. I was like livid listening to it. Like, I really didn't like it whatsoever. And even in part 3, they do get back together. Another spoiler, which I also thought was crazy. Like, okay, you're just gonna have them get divorced like halfway through the book and then magically get back together during Christmas time in Sweden. Yeah, in Sweden. And you're just gonna make it seem like nothing happened and that Sadie all of a sudden had a change of heart? No, I'm not gonna do, no, that's not acceptable. That's like poor writing in its finest form. That is poor writing, in my opinion. And it's just like, just make it a novella. Like, in part 1, Sadie is more likable than in parts 2 and 3. And in part 1, it is a really great romance between Sadie and Nash, because Nash shows Sadie there's more to life than just being treated with the bare minimum from the man you're supposed to marry. And Nash shows Sadie that life can be exciting and not so boring and like stiff like how it is with Stenson. And then in part 2, it just kind of demolishes all of it. And I think Courtney was trying to redeem it in part 3, but it just fell really flat. It was so flat. I just couldn't even stand it. And the epilogue, don't even get me started on the epilogue. The epilogue was even worse, because it was like, after everything that happened, Sadie was like, we have this great romance, and we've been through divorce, we've been through an ex-boyfriend, we've been through all this hard stuff, me losing my memory, and now we're having a baby. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like, I get that it's like a year later in the epilogue, but I'm just like, you don't go from being married to someone and like they're the love of your life and then just lose your memory. And she doesn't even get her memories back, which I thought was some fresh BS, because it made me draw parallels to what Alice forgot. At least Alice got her memories back. Like, and I mean, I know that made me upset in its own way, but I think Courtney could have at least like had her have an epiphany, at least a little bit. I don't know. Everything about this book was wrong to me. And I'm just like, the more I'm thinking about it and the more I'm talking about it, I just really didn't like it. And I'm kind of sad that it is going to be one of the Christmas books in my Christmas series, because it's definitely not something that I would consider like a true Christmas book. Like, there were great Christmas some Christmas themes, like small town and Nash really leaning into the small town aspect of where Sadie grew up. And the parts with Nash were great. Like, Nash is a great husband, and he's really unconditional to Sadie with his love for her. And that was amazing. That was beautiful. But I don't think Sadie deserved any of it, unfortunately. And maybe if she had better character growth, I would feel better about that. I would feel better about her and Nash being together. But she really didn't have good character growth. And that's what was sad to me, because it's like she got everything back but didn't really earn it. It did not feel earned whatsoever. And I just really disappointed in it. But Nash was great. He was the best part of the book. Like, he tried so hard to help Sadie remember everything. And it just was like, she didn't want anything to do with it. And I'm like, but why? But why? I don't understand. I have a lot of questions. And I can't say that I recommend this book, because I definitely don't. Like, the premise of it was so good, and part 1 was so good, but the rest of it was just a bunch of, it was just horrible. Absolutely horrible. And yeah, I don't know. One Foggy Christmas, definitely not on my recommend list. It just made me kind of upset. And those are my thoughts on it. And I'm so sorry that this ended up being a really ranty type video, because I'm trying to make my Christmas videos feel hopeful and uplifting. And like I said, I had a really great stretch of really nice Christmas books. And then One Foggy Christmas ruined it. It ruined it. And I think the only thing that I can have glean from all of that what happened is that don't question God's plan for your life. I guess is the one lesson that I take away from it, because Sadie questioned it and everything went wrong. So just give it up to God. Give it to God and it will be okay. Don't try and change it. Don't try and be a control freak, because when you try to control everything, that's when things go wrong. God is God for a reason, and He has a plan for your life. He knows what He's doing. And I think that was the biggest lesson that I took away from it, that I can see being hopeful for the Christmas season, is relax. Even if things are stressful and they seem hard, don't give up. Give it to God and just let it go. But yeah, that's my Christmas book rant for the season, I guess. But thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate all of my subscribers and everyone who watches me. I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you for that. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, friends.